My name's Alex. I'm a coronavirus tracer.
My grey hairs that are turning up now have come from trying to deal with this system. It's driving me mad.
We will have a test, track and trace operation that will be world-beating.
I'm also a whistleblower, filming my experience as NHS Test and Trace goes live.
Communication buffer resources with another process. I have absolutely no idea what that means.
I speak to families confused by the new system.
I said, you want me to self-isolate till a date in the past? It feels like something that is doomed to fail from the outset, if I'm honest.
And leaders of the first city in England to face local lockdown.
I don't think we were given any thought at all at a local level. Our understanding was not used.
The government is now telling us to brace for a second wave of coronavirus. Can NHS Test and Trace cope?
I'm pretty ashamed to say to people, this is what I'm doing. I feel like I've achieved a big fat zero.
It's May, and like millions of people, I can't go to work because of coronavirus lockdown.
You feel pretty useless sitting here at home, you know, not doing very much. Then this email popped up looking for people to do the test and trace system. If I can do something that will make even a tiny little bit of difference to this and help people get back to some sort of normality, then absolutely sign me up.
Nearly 36,000 people have already died with COVID-19 in the UK, and around 2,300 people a day are testing positive. The government has a plan to help defeat coronavirus and keep the economy open for business.
We will have a test, track and trace operation that will be world-beating, and yes, it will be in place. It will be in place by June the 1st.
A brand new system for England to test more people, call the contacts of anyone who's tested positive, friends, family, colleagues, and then ask them all to self-isolate. Virus tracing, already taking place in hospitals and care homes, will be rolled into the new system. Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have their own programmes. Thousands, including me, are being recruited for the new service in England.
They have stepped up to serve their country in its hour of need, and I want to thank them in advance for the life-saving work that they're about to do.
I'm a healthcare professional and begin training to be a clinical contact caseworker. It'll be my job to call people who've just tested positive. From the start, I experienced chaos and confusion. So I contact the BBC where I worked 4 years ago and begin filming.
It's just absolutely mind-blowing, the amount of stuff that you need to be able to rattle off. Pages and pages and pages, you can just keep whizzing through it.
I'm paid between £17 and £27 an hour, depending what day I work. Part of a new army of virus tracers, almost all working from home.
Today, we formally launch NHS Test and Trace. This system will start tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And the first people who will be contacted will be the people who received a positive result today.
Well, that's news to us. As far as we were concerned, it was the 1st of June, but even that was in doubt.
I'm worried I won't be ready because I'm having problems logging in and booking shifts.
The system keeps crashing. We keep all being told how important it is, but they seem to not be able to get the glitches out of the system.
2 days after Test and Trace goes live, I start my first shift. Cases aren't assigned to us. Instead, we have to press a button, signalling we're ready to take one. I press the button a lot.
Start tracing. There are currently no available records for you for this campaign, which means that I've got no one to follow up with at the moment.
So I've reached the end of my shift, my first shift online, and I had 0 cases to deal with today. So I've just finished my second shift. It was an 8 AM till 2 PM and I didn't have a single case. Yet again, I've got no cases to trace. I don't understand why not when we're all sitting here twiddling our thumbs.
It's the 12th of June and more than 900 people in England test positive today, but still I have nothing to do.
So I'm logged in. It's shift number 6 since we have gone live, and I've got no cases to track again.
I'm not alone.
So we have a Facebook page which has been created as a support network for this job.
Haven't had a case in days. There's 20 comments. Yep, same. Something tells me the system isn't working properly. Surely there's been some positive results in the country. And someone else has replied, must be, the mind boggles.
By the 2nd of July, around 31,000 people have tested positive in England, and nearly 24,000 of them have been contacted since the system went live. It's all smiles. First from the Prime Minister in a personal message to us.
Hi folks, I wanted to thank each and every one of you for being part of the NHS Test and Trace service as we mark 1 month now since the service was launched, and the progress that has been made and the difference you're already making.
And then from Dido Harding, who leads Test and Trace.
Just for this moment, enjoy and feel deep pride in what you've achieved. It's incredible. Thank you.
I feel like I've achieved a big fat 0 because I haven't had any calls to deal with. I haven't spoken to a single case. I've been on shift now 11 times since the thing's gone live and nothing.
With more than 1,000 caseworkers like me on shift at any one time, I'm beginning to wonder if there are just too many of us. Chris Hobson represents all NHS trusts in England.
It wouldn't seem to me to be a massive error or failure to create a test and trace system in which you've got more people than you need, particularly in the summer months when we know that the transition rate may be lower. What you do need to be ready for is when the transmission rates increase, which they might do in winter.
Lockdown restrictions in England are being eased, but there are local spikes in infection.
We are doing much more to be able to trace these individual outbreaks. For instance, there's an outbreak right now in parts of Leicester.
The Secretary of State stood up at a Downing Street press conference and announced that there was, as he described it, an outbreak in Leicester. It was then 11 days before anything happened. You have to say that it was done in a way that was slow and painful.
Leicester is heading for lockdown. There are around 70 new cases a day, and by the end of June, the city accounts for more than 10% of all confirmed cases in England.
Officials have been struggling to identify the cause of the fresh outbreak.
Leicester City Council knows it has a problem. What it needs is specific information about who is testing positive and where. The national system collects that data, but isn't sharing all of it with local authorities.
If we had that information, particularly at street level, that would have been ideal. Local authorities do this all the time. This is not new to us, whether it's through environmental health officers, people that we use for sexual health services. We're used to this.
The big element that was missing was the expertise that local government has on the ground.
Tom Reardon was asked by the government to come up with a plan to plug local councils into the new system.
So once we had the national test and trace system in place, we needed to connect it extremely well with local activity and put Directors of Public Health right at the heart of the contained strategy for the country, because you can't do that from a desk in Whitehall.
But officials in Leicester say it came too late for their city.
BBC Radio Leicester. Stricter lockdown controls are being reintroduced in Leicester after a sharp increase in cases of coronavirus in the city.
If they had been feeding through to us where the positive tests were coming from, I am absolutely convinced we could have intervened at a much, much earlier stage. And had we been able to, I'm absolutely convinced that there would have been no question whatsoever of having to take any special measures, lockdown or other, in Leicester.
The Department of Health and Social Care says the system was launched when it was operationally ready and staffing levels are kept under constant review. It says local authorities have been an integral part of its response throughout and that they've been receiving test, case and contact tracing data since June the 24th. Back in my front room, I'm having more problems. I'm struggling with the computer system we're using.
This system that we work with is quite possibly the most complicated system I've ever come across. And essentially what it is two different systems that have been stuck together and you have to jump between the two of them.
And there are more glitches.
Today has been a total and utter waste of time. I've been unable to log in for the entire shift. Same password I always use. There you go. Invalid email or password.
I get very few cases, but when I do, the system sometimes won't let me follow them up.
Communication buffer resources with another process and has been chosen as the deadlock victim. I have absolutely no idea what that means.
I'm regularly on the phone to team leaders. They tell me similar issues are being reported by others too.
You just don't know what's going on, and I can pretty safely say that my grey hairs that are turning up now have come from trying to deal with this system. It's driving me mad.
Nearly 30,000 people in England who've tested positive have now been contacted since the system launched. But the performance of Test and Trace is under fire.
I can certainly give the House the assurance that our Test and Trace system is as good as or better than any other system anywhere in the world. And yes, it will play a vital part in ensuring that we do not have a second spike this winter.
I think one of the unfortunate things that NHS Test and Trace has had, and it's like a millstone around its neck, was the Prime Minister's statement that this was going to be a world-class service. It is vital that we have confidence in NHS Test and Trace because it's such an important service for all of us. And therefore to, in a sense, hobble it right from the beginning by saying it was going to be world-class when it clearly wasn't, in our view, was really unhelpful.
I only call people who've tested positive. Another part of the system calls their close contacts to ask them to self-isolate too. It's an important job, and I'm on my way to meet one of the 12,000 contact tracers doing it.
I have to log on to a system called Global Protect.
Okay.
Tobin's been working full-time from home for 9 weeks. He works in small teams of around 15 people.
Most people, including myself, have had no records or no end-to-end call. An end-to-end call is when the contact that we are reaching picks up, and I've had none of those. I've had 2 calls, neither of which have been end-to-end.
He's done 40 shifts and been paid around £4,000 so far. Tobin also knows all about pressing the button, chasing cases.
So when you look at it, in 6 weeks you've only had 2 calls and you probably pressed that button about 1 million times in that period.
Exactly. You're not doing anything apart from clicking this button, and like you, that's not what I want to be doing.
Then the button delivers a case.
Blimey, well, I didn't think it would happen, but I've got a record.
Before he makes the call, Tobin checks in with his supervisor.
Are you happy for me to go ahead with that, yeah? Excellent, thank you.
No answer, and he can't leave a message. He says it's only the 3rd time he's made a call, and they've all ended the same way.
So what happens now? It's rung out. What happens next?
It will be rescheduled again, and then it will keep on going within that cycle until either they reach the max call attempts or they answer and complete the questionnaire.
If there's no contact after 10 attempts, that's it. Any chance to persuade the person to self-isolate appears to be lost.
It is demoralising, and it just doesn't make you feel good, and it doesn't make you feel good about what's going on with COVID-19 either.
Two private companies, Serco and Sitel, are responsible for hiring tracers like Tobin. Sitel also helped set up parts of the new system. Contracts for the first 3 months alone were worth around £192 million. The government says it's now set aside £12 billion for test and trace. By the end of July, an estimated £1 billion had already been spent.
I mean, there's substantial sums of money going out the door, and we don't know exactly what it's achieving. The Public Accounts Committee is going to be looking at this, the National Audit Office is looking at this, but we don't have any more information as we sit here right now. We need to see how our money's being spent. They should never shy away from being open about how taxpayers' money's being spent, because in the end, we're all going to have to pay this back over however many years. It's not free money, it belongs to the British public.
The Department of Health and Social Care says the service is one of the largest testing and contact tracing systems in the world. It works with a wide range of public and private sector partners who are all experts in call handling, and that initial technical issues were resolved quickly. It says more information about how funding is being spent will be published next summer. I want to know what it can be like to take a call from Test and Trace. I meet a family who had a surprising experience. Dan Saxton was told he had coronavirus on the 12th of August.
There's a guilt complex, I guess, with having had COVID, that you might have passed it on without knowing, you know, that gate you touched, the door you touched, or just walking past someone.
Dan had been staying with his parents in Cumbria, so he alerted them immediately.
I was like, jeepers, I was not expecting that at all. And then suddenly your mind starts racing. Okay, if he's positive, what does that mean? What do we need to do? So we basically did even more lockdown isolating, because there was the possibility that we were infected as well.
Joe went for a test and came back negative. 9 days after he first found out about his son, he got a series of calls, which he ignored.
I don't tend to answer 0300 numbers, you know, and I don't answer 0300 numbers because they're usually somebody trying to sell me something.
The next day, Joe realised who may be trying to get in touch with him. This time, he picked up.
The poor woman had to tell me on the 23rd of August that I should be self-isolating until the 16th of August. And I said, that's a week ago. You want me to self-isolate till a date in the past. And you could hear the sort of embarrassment and exasperation in this woman's voice, that she's asking me to do something that is patently bonkers.
And there will be people who know what to do, but the whole point of the system is we need to support people who don't know what to do, who may not have English as a first language, who may not have a place where they can isolate easily, who may not be able to afford to take 2 weeks off because they're on hourly paid contracts on very low wages and they've got kids to feed.
Today, the government has begun paying some people on lower incomes £500 to encourage them to self-isolate. It's almost 2 months since Leicester went into local lockdown. Positive cases have fallen to fewer than 30 a day. The City Council and other local authorities in England are now able to get more information from Test and Trace. They're being given the details of people who've tested positive, but only after the national system hasn't been able to make contact within 24 hours.
Okay, so Sarah, looks like there's only a couple of cases, and based on the surname and the postcode and the contact number, I think they're at the same address.
Sarah is trying to reach a woman who, together with her child, has tested positive, but who hasn't yet been spoken to.
The major goal that we're doing from all of this is that people are contacted to be told that they are a positive case so that they know to isolate.
Sarah's got a mobile number, passed on to her from the national system.
Dale?
Yeah.
That one went to voicemail on my first attempt.
No worries, I'm going to have a quick look and see if I can find any more information for you.
If a person doesn't answer a call when I make it, there's very little I can do. But local authorities have other databases they can search, like school rolls and council tax lists.
We think we've got the address. The number?
Yeah.
Do you want to just jot it down?
In just a few minutes, Sarah has a landline number to try. She gets through.
Hello, my name's Sarah. I'm calling from the Leicester City Council working on the NHS Test and Trace. Have you got a minute to talk to me? Because you've been identified as a confirmed case of COVID-19 and I need to make a list of people that you may have come into contact with around the time of your illness. Is that okay?
I'm impressed, but Sarah had to wait for my system to try and fail first. And right now, the City Council says confirmed cases can take up to 10 days to reach them.
I don't feel that we are plugged into the system. You know, we've got this unit that's set up ourselves, so when that information comes to us, the people that you can't get and that comes to us, we're like a separate system that goes in, you know, the point of last resort, and we go and get them.
Local authorities, like Leicester, don't want to be last. They want to be first and in control.
The fundamental thing that would make the crucial difference to our ability to intervene is the names and addresses immediately they test positive.
Those contacts need to be rung up quickly and they need to be persuaded to self-isolate quickly. And to be frank, if you've not really done that within 24, 48 hours, then I wouldn't say it's, you know, it's useless, but certainly you're reducing the effectiveness. We're probably losing too many people. It potentially has an impact in terms of how many people are infected, and ultimately, if we don't get it right, it means potentially more people dying.
I can only do my job if lots of people are able to get tests. As schools and universities return after the summer, the system is under pressure.
People in some areas are having to travel more than 100 miles for coronavirus tests.
Another week begins with reports of struggles to get bookings for coronavirus tests. Long waits and frustration for people queuing at a walk-in virus testing centre.
Crucially, the most important bit, in a sense, is that when anybody needs a test, they can get access to it quickly, which is not currently happening at the moment.
During lockdown in Leicester, the City Council began targeted testing, funded by additional government money.
Good morning, my name's Harvey. I'm going to do the full staff brief. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be going out into the community to support the COVID testing in Leicester City.
Mobile teams hit the streets. Staff redeployed from other parts of the council.
Hello there, darling. We're doing COVID-19 testing in the area and we're offering everybody a home kit. Are you okay, my friend? Everything okay? Yeah.
Officials in the city say it provides a glimpse of what local control of testing can achieve.
You can always call this number.
When we're dealing with this pandemic, and whether it's testing, whether it's contact tracing, we've got information that helps us to understand our communities. We know our communities. We live here. You know, we work with these communities every day.
Thank you. Okay, we'll see you in 30 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
What I think we need to do is to put public health specialists in charge of the system. And the way we do that is by giving them the ability to deploy testing capability and tracing capability to the places where it's breaking out and clustering.
I would be delighted if now, belatedly, we were given the responsibility for making sure that the testing takes place at a local level, the follow-up takes place at the local level, and the prevention of the transmission of the virus takes place at a local level.
The The Department of Health and Social Care says it's given local authorities £300 million for outbreak control plans and is providing dedicated teams of contact tracers. It says the service is working hard to break chains of transmission, with almost 500,000 people contacted, most, it says, within 24 hours. It says it's providing tests at an unprecedented scale. More than 2,000 people are testing positive in England. And I'm still pressing the button.
So I've essentially sat here for 4 hours and I was trying to figure out actually how many times I've clicked this button. It's roughly between 110 and 120 times on a 4-hour shift.
Eventually, I get a case. It looks like it could be connected to a care home.
So I just tried to call this person. There was no answer. There's no other phone number. Like, this person is positive. Potentially, he might not have even picked up his email alert to say he is positive. And if there's a care home involved, which is what's being said here, that's really worrying.
Another case goes back into the system. There's nothing more I can do.
I'm pretty ashamed to say to people this is what I'm doing, because the whole point of me setting out to do this was to make a turnaround, to make a contribution.
Hospital admissions are now rising and coronavirus restrictions are being ramped up. Throughout the summer, the Prime Minister promised that NHS Test and Trace would play a vital role in preventing a second spike this winter. Now he says it's down to us.
If people don't follow the rules we've set out, then we must reserve the right to go further. There are unquestionably difficult months to come, and the fight against COVID is by no means over.
When we look back and when the public inquiry happens, people will look at what should have been done earlier. I think there were extremely challenging circumstances for everybody involved during that first period of the pandemic starting. But in future, we've got to learn the lesson from it. And the best lesson we can learn is that the local and the national working together in unison with equally strong comparative esteem, if you like, between the two, is what will get us the best result.
Latest government figures show just over 1 in 5 people testing positive for coronavirus aren't being reached by NHS Test and Trace. During my time there, I spoke to just one person who tested positive. I do my last shift on the 16th of September.
Are you sure? Yes, log out. So I've come to the end of my test and trace journey now. I have worked 4 months almost. I've done 27 shifts in that time and 20 of them since it's gone live. Is it what I thought it would be? Nope. Is it what I'd hoped it would be? No.
Talking from the heart, an honest and vulnerable account as Freddie Flintoff opens up about his personal struggle living with bulimia. That's tonight at 9 on BBC One.